I didn't join the Communist Party right away. When I was still at primary school, my best friend's father, who was an old Bolshevik, persuaded me to come with her to the Left Book Club. And this was my first introduction of meeting with people of color who were not just workers. I was working for the Friends of the Soviet Union, where I met my husband. He was a member of the Communist Party of South Africa, and I soon joined the party as well. And the Nationalist Party came to power in 1948, and we knew that very soon the Communist Party would be banned. I was arrested with several other people. At that stage, Bram Fischer had not yet been arrested. We were all sent to Pretoria, and my husband was arrested at the same time. I actually thought we would go in the same car, but they had two separate cars for us, so that there was absolutely no way of communicating with him. We were arrested on the 3rd of July, 1964. And I just remember very clearly that it was the last day of school. And some consolation was that the children will not be going to school when everybody will be talking about our arrest. So the day they went to school, nobody yet knew. The papers hadn't got hold of the story. I was very worried. Mel was only 8 years old, Linda was 13, and Sonia was 16. We had time to say goodbye and just to tell them to get in touch with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. The first night that I was arrested, and we went to Pretoria, I had a terribly restless night. I just couldn't come to terms with the fact that I was in jail. I was locked up, and that I couldn't walk through the door without somebody unlocking me. The interrogations were terrible. We had two types of interrogator. We had a soft one who tried to be nice to us. We had a hard one that used to snap at us and shout at us. And for me, there was an added problem that my husband was in at the same time as I was, and they played off one against the other, and that worried me tremendously. I mean, out of the blue, they told me that my husband was having an affair, and no doubt they told him that I was having an affair, and I wondered what else they were telling him, and whether he would maybe finally break down because of me being in jail as well. It was quite difficult to speak to our legal team, mainly because we were separated from the men. We could never have joint consultations. And we also kept doing this, you know, warning each other that this conversation was probably taped as well. And so we used to write things down, and it's awfully difficult to prepare a defense under those circumstances. The trial was very, very traumatic because one of our trusted comrades became one of the chief accusers, and he gave us all away. If it wasn't for him, I think we would all have been acquitted, including him. The trial, incidentally, was called the Fisher trial, and Bram Fisher was given permission to go to London for a case that he had, and he promised that he would come back. And the comrades in London tried to persuade him not to come back, but he said, "I've given my word and I'm going back." But when he came back to South Africa, he immediately went underground, and he sent a letter to his defense attorney to say that he could no longer respect the court and that he was not willing to stand trial. So we had the trial, so called the Fisher trial, but without Fisher. And in the end, we got sentences from 1 year to 5 years. I got 3 years. And after we were sentenced, we came back to the fort and spent about 2 weeks there, a very different situation to the time when we were awaiting trial. We were then convicted prisoners, and they were very harsh to us. I never stopped thinking about my children and thinking of the last letter they'd written. What are they doing? At least I know what they did a few weeks ago. Are they all right? Are they safe? I never came to terms with it. But I want to tell you that those of us who had family outside coped much better than the women who were not involved, who didn't have families. Their incarceration was much more difficult than ours. The 2nd of February, 1990, I think is the date, when I suddenly realized that the organizations, mine included, was unbanned. I got terribly, terribly excited, and I threw up my arms and I said, "Comrades, I'm free," because previously I couldn't be quoted, I couldn't participate in anything to do with politics. So it was a whole new life for me.